what do you think about your own theory after 10 or after 15 years? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's it won. I mean, it's obvious at this point. Anyone who uses YouTube understands the long tail. Um, it's so kind of not controversial right now. It's sort of it. It's like, yeah, everyone uses the word. Everyone knows what the long tail means. Everyone experiences the long tail anytime they use the web, but especially things like YouTube, which are the long tail content.
In what moment of your life did you take a chance to be entrepreneur?
Oh,
Why do you?
this is my sixth company. I've always, had a company of some sort. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. For companies fail all the time. That's again, it's in Silicon Valley. That's kind of normal. That you're supposed to. Most companies are supposed to fail. But you end up, exploring ideas that might work better. Sometimes you pivot. Sometimes you just, some of these companies we sold to another company. So there's bits of the technology that are still out there. So again, we never worry about this. It wasn't like my children are going to starve. It is absolutely normal to start companies that don't fail, that don't succeed, rather. That's completely normal. Yeah. Well, we're a big company now. We've got about 350 employees, 5 offices. We're competing with a fantastic Chinese company called DJI, and we're gaining share. Solo is our first consumer product that's designed to beat the Chinese in the consumer space. The technology is amazing, and we're now ramping up our mass production in China to have efficient a production process as theirs as well. So right now we're targeting three things. We're targeting the consumer space, or the sort of the prosumer space with a vehicle. We're targeting obviously the developers and the ecosystem with a platform, and we're targeting the commercial space with a similar product but just different sensors. The so-called consumerization of the enterprise approach, where we believe that vehicles like this are going to dominate commercial space rather than expensive, large, dangerous vehicles that are only commercial.
In your conference, you talk about two cases very interesting. Both the first one is about the chimpanzees conservation case, and the second one is the bat detecting case. Perhaps you can bat.
A bat.
But perhaps you can talk about both
Yeah,
cases.
well, I mean, those were examples where I was talking about using drones for environment protection and conservation of animals, and one of the big challenges for protecting animals is just counting them. Just getting a population estimate without disrupting them. And drones are actually really good at doing population monitoring. They actually don't bother the animals because, again, they're from the air. It's possible to it's much more efficient to scan these things from the air. We can do it at in infrared at night. We can do it optically, looking at things like nesting, which we saw. We can do it acoustically, as I mentioned with the bats. And so these things are basically they have a range of sensors. We can measure chemicals. We can have traps that catch insects, etc. So these are really just a platform for sensors of any kind that can really easily put sensors anywhere, anytime, very cheaply, without endangering the populations themselves. So in many ways, they're perfect scientific measurement instruments, and conservation is the place we're using it first.
Okay, and in some case, who and why are the benefits of this technology? You talk about the drones are an extension of the internet. Perhaps.
Well, in the case of agriculture, right now half of the inputs in agriculture, this is the water, chemicals, seed, labor, half of those inputs are wasted. In other words, that they don't result in food. You use too much chemicals or too little chemicals, etc. And the reason we waste so much is because we can't measure the process. We basically plant the seeds and wait. It used to be that you could walk the fields, but now farms are too big. And so we don't have a way to really monitor agriculture. And so we use monoculture. We use a single, very predictable seed instead, and there's obviously risks with monoculture, such as disease. So I think the biggest advantage is by measuring agriculture, we can reduce the inputs, increase the outputs, limit the amount of chemicals we're putting into our food and the environment, and introduce more diversity in agriculture so we don't have to fall back on monoculture in the absence of information.